You have access to this whole universe of positive energy or negative energy, depending on which one you tap into.
Okay.
Okay? And you take advantage of that.
And
as we do that, we start to remember our purpose. We start to remember the training that we got in heaven. Everything starts to make sense. Now, sometimes you have to go get trained again, right? Let's say, well, let's say you're supposed to be a violinist. And so you're attracted to violin books or to violin, and you start playing without you knowing. And that's why it doesn't matter if you have a religious background. And you just see the violin and say, I'm curious about that. You pick it up because your soul is guiding you. Because your soul knows what your purpose is.
Okay.
Because all of a sudden you pick up a violin, and even though nobody's there to teach you, you just try to do it on your own. You start to pick it up. All of a sudden, somebody shows up and says, I could teach you how to do that. Well, I don't have any money, I can't afford it. I'll do it for you anyway, as long as you do this. You come clean my barn every weekend, and we'll swap. You clean my barn, I'll give you lessons. And that's how you start to pick it up, and now you begin to achieve your life's purpose. That's how it goes. But as you tap into more energy, universal energy, you start to remember more.
Okay.
And then you accomplish more. I don't know if that helps you.
Yes, so we go through the veil of forgetfulness, but as we start to, on our own life journey, no matter how we are raised, we just have a knowing, our soul knows, and we're attracted to certain things that will help us to be able to figure out what our life's purpose is.
That's correct.
Got it.
Yeah. And for example, you asked the question earlier, okay, well, how about you have the kids that we've seen on YouTube where they remember
their past
lives. So how come they remember that? Well, you mentioned that one movie, what's it called again? Chances Are.
Chances Are.
Right, the movie Chances Are, where the guy dies and he goes to heaven, right? And he wants to come right back because he was married and he loved his wife and the whole thing. And they forget to pass him through the veil of forgetfulness. Remember that?
Yes.
And so he comes back to Earth and he remembers everything. He remembers his previous wife, and now he's like this teenager and she's old, but he wants to marry her. And she's like, wait a minute, what's wrong with you, kid?
And the angel's chasing him, trying to get it with the needle all the time.
Right. So that's a good example of what can happen when you don't pass through the veil of forgetfulness. Now, I don't think that's the way it happens in heaven, but something happens because some of these kids, they're born and they remember their previous family. And they can say, oh, I was married to this person. They could even take you to the house where they lived, right? And they give specific names and specific details.
And the families confirm information.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's to help both of them, both families. The one who lost the person or thinks they lost the person, and then also the little child, for their family to know, hey, the spiritual world is real. And whether you believe in it or not, this is what's happening, and this is real. There's more to life.
Possibly.
That's my thinking, my thoughts on that.
I'm not too sure, but it sounds good.
Thanks.
But then again, if you notice after a while, they forget.
They do.
So what happened? Is it like in a movie, chances are they come and they give them that shot and then they forget? I don't know. But for sure, they remember it for a while, and a lot of times it's until they get maybe like age 10, and all of a sudden, as though it never existed. They don't remember anything now.
Right.
So somewhere along the line, they didn't go through the veil of forgetfulness. Then later on, they passed them through it.
Or maybe, could it be when the karma descends at the age of 12, that it blocks everything else out?
It's possible. It's possible. Now that's another good thing. That's another good point about karma and how it descends, right? Because I don't think that's something that a lot of people understand. For example, in the Latino tradition, you have quinceañera.
Right, when you're like 14 years old.
Right, 14, 15. Okay.
Is that 15? Okay, I'm still learning Spanish.
All right, so they have this special celebration because now the child has become an adult. In the Jewish faith, you have the
bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah, and that's usually at the age of 12. I've been to one of each.
So you see what I mean? Why are those so important? Because the teachings will tell you that in the past, when a child hits 13 years old, their karma descent, they start to descend. Okay? Before that, they might choose to be born with some karma, like whether they're handicapped, whatever that might be, but the actual karma hasn't descended yet. So they have from age 0 to age 12, it's like a honeymoon stage because they're developing, getting ready. And us as parents, our job then is to get them ready so that when the karma descends, they can handle it. But a lot of parents don't know that. And the best example of that is with Jesus. You know, when he was 12, he went to the temple.
Right.
And started teaching. Why is it 12? See, when you think about what happens in the Bible and how the teachings explains things, it all makes sense.
Right.
In life now, I always hear this thing. I've only heard this since I've been in America, about how teenagers, they always have these negative things to say about teenagers.
A lot of negative things about teenagers.
But what did they say?
As soon as they hit the teen years, oh, here comes the rebellious stage.
Right?
Yes, they're not going to listen to anything I say. They're just going to talk back. And it's all this negative stuff about teenagers.
Now, why do you think that is so?
I think it's because they don't understand karma. That the kids themselves are being hit with karma and they're like, whoa, what's happening? But they can't understand it because on the spiritual level, they don't know what's happening.
Exactly.
And then the parents, probably not having been raised with any of that, they're just like, oh, it's just a phase, it's gonna end by the time they're 20.
They're just bad kids, right?
Right, exactly. Like what the doctors tell them. Oh, by the time they're 23, they'll be over it and they'll be onto a new phase. But
Okay.
okay, yes, I've read some books. Watch some talk shows.
I didn't know about it. I don't watch those talk shows. So, but that's the point, that once they turn 13, the karma descends. And if they're not properly prepared, they're confused. You know, and they're trying to figure things out on their own.
Right.
It doesn't work. So we've been taught that the best way to prepare any soul for when the karma descends on their 13th birthday is to get them as close to God as possible prior to their 13th birthday. So that on their 13th birthday, because they understand the laws, then when the karma descends, they know how to handle it. They know how to balance it, right?
Right.
As it descends on them every day, they know what to do to balance it on a daily basis. And yes, they'll still have challenges, but nothing like the ones that most teenagers have.
Right. I know, like for us, having been raised Catholic in the Catholic Church, normally around 12, 13, 14 years of age, like right around the time that the kids enter into high school, they have them go through confirmation, which is supposed to solidify their faith and help them become a soldier of Christ and bring them closer to God. And that makes sense now why they do that, correct. Because that tradition's been there from the Jewish faith, which they took from the Jewish faith, it seems, and it continued.
Right.
Right. So
exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
In the Catholic faith, that's how they prepare the child to be a teenager. And normally, when do they go through that? What age?
About 12, 13, 14.
12, right? Normally it's supposed to be 12, but some people stretch it farther now.
Right.
When it's supposed to be age 12. You see how, if you look at the different faiths or denominations, how everything kind of ties up.
Yes.
Ties together based on the teachings. And every denomination, every faith has something similar. Okay? So they go through that, right?
Right.
Now, let's say decide, so people might ask, for example, so what about a child that's born into an abusive family?
Right.
Why would a soul do that? They know it's going to happen, so why would they do that? Because that's the karma that they have to balance with those individuals who happen to be their parents. Well, what does that really mean? Well, it's possible, and this is just my story, trying to put a story out there, right?
Okay, this is your example.
Right. It's possible that, let's say, those two souls that represent the parents abused this soul in a previous lifetime. Okay? In whatever way, physical, whichever way it might be. And now, they've been given a second chance to treat this soul the proper way, to rear this soul the proper way. Make sure this soul becomes a responsible human being, you know, that they show love, respect, and everything to this soul that's about to be born. The soul knows that. So the soul chooses this because he or she wants to balance that karma with these two individuals. They're born to that family. Unfortunately, the two souls do the same thing. They abuse the child again. Now, here's what's interesting. Because the soul chose to go through that one more time, if they abuse the soul again, they've gotten their second chance. The soul doesn't have to go through that again. Because they've balanced their karma with those two souls now.
Oh, because they went through the experience again.
Exactly. They chose to go through the experience.
That child, that soul kept up their end of the bargain, and the other two didn't.
You can't force somebody to do what they're supposed to do, right?
Right.
So the soul can't keep coming back and keep getting abused.
Right.
The time has to come where they say, okay, you've done your job. They have to deal with this at a different level. Now, what would happen in that case? Because they've been given so many chances, each one of those souls would probably be born to an abusive family. So they have to go through the abuse themselves to know what it's like, because that's what they've been doing this whole time, and they never learned from it. So then somebody might see one of these souls that was given a second chance, right? So then this soul is born, and here's this sweet little child, very respectful, always listening to the parents, but then the parents abuse this soul. And then you as a neighbor, like, these are some horrible parents. How could they do that to this child, you know? This child is so quiet all the time. They listen, they're obedient, they do what they're told, they go to school. And why would they treat this child this way? It's not fair. How could God let that happen?
Right.
Well, we don't know what this soul's previous life was like. We don't know that this soul was given chances in the past to treat a soul that they had mistreated or abused for so many lifetimes.
And now they had to go through it to be able to balance that karma.
Right?
Wow.
So when we look at something, that's how we shouldn't judge. Okay? Because we don't know the full story. Now, there are some individuals that are blessed. They can see what's called a karmic record. They can actually look at you and see your past lives and see the things that you've been through. In that case, they can say something because they can see the whole picture, right?
Okay.
And there's a story of that with Jesus and Mary Magdalene in the Bible. The one that was considered to be a prostitute.
Right.
Now, here she is, because she's supposedly a prostitute. They decide to do what?
They were going to stone her because she was a prostitute.
Until she died, right?
Stone until the death.
Jesus comes along. What does he do?
He tells them, you who have not sinned, cast the first stone.
Right, so he's saying, okay, if you haven't committed any sin, go ahead and throw a stone at her. So why did they put the stones down and walk away? Just because he said, any of you, if you guys haven't sinned, then go ahead and throw a stone, and instead they put the stones down and left, why would they leave?
I don't know. Why did they leave?
Right? Don't you wonder about that? Like, just because it's Jesus? Now keep in mind, a lot of people didn't listen to Jesus back then.
Right. They thought he was the rebel. They thought he was a troublemaker.
Right.
They wanted him dead.
Exactly. So it's not that somebody could respond, well, that's because Jesus said that. But they didn't believe in Jesus in the first place.
That's right.
So why would they just drop their pebbles or rocks and walk away? If you go back and read that, it states right there that Jesus wrote in the sand. All right? He wrote in the sand. And then after he wrote in the sand, then he said, any one of you, you know, you don't have any sin, cast the first stone. Go ahead and...
So what did he write in the sand?
According to the ascended masters, he wrote the sins for all of them in the sand, sins that they had committed. So when they saw that, they said, wait a minute, this guy knows, he knows that I've committed a sin. It's right there. Right? So
talk about being put on the spot.
You know, right? So they couldn't argue and say, well, okay, I'm going to cast the stone because I'm committed sin, when he already put it right there. This is what you did. You did this, and you did that. Right?
That's not even a confession there.
Right? And that's why they dropped their stones and walked away, because they knew that he knew. He showed them that he knew.
Yeah.
And there are people that can do that. Right?
Okay.
There are people that can do that. Anyway, why did I say that? Oh, right. So again, based on karma, a lot of things, if you don't understand karma, a lot of things don't seem right.
Right.
Okay? They seem unfair. But if you approach it from the perspective of karma, then a lot of things can be explained. See, it's like you and I, you know, when we were just friends, I think, or maybe we had just started dating, I don't remember. Oh, by the way, and this comes up because a lot of times you get guidance through dreams, right?
Yes.
So that's the other thing, that you can actually learn a lot about your previous embodiments through dreams. Now, please don't go and try to figure out what your previous embodiment was, A lot of people, they want to know, I want to know what my previous embodiment was.
I want to know what I was in a past
Exactly.
life. Was I a king? Was I a queen?
Right.
Was I a great explorer? No, don't try and figure it out.
But it's not, it's only important to know that if it's revealed to you. Otherwise, and when it's revealed to you, it's for a lesson. It's for guidance that you're receiving. That's all it is. Don't get stuck on that. Even if you were a king before, you're not a king now.
Your life this time is different.
Exactly.
You have to do things differently.
Okay? So don't get caught up in that whole previous embodiment thing. Whenever that's revealed, it's because there's a lesson there, there's guidance, and then you take it for what it's worth, and then you move on. And a good example of that is like my wife and myself. We've had a lot of guidance with that, where we've had previous embodiments together. You know, and the one I was thinking about was the one where I was the Russian kid that played chess.
Oh,
right?
that was fun.
How was that fun?
No, just how I shared with you my dream that I had, and you said, wait, this was my dream. And they went hand in hand as if we were talking about a movie.
Is that what happened?
Yes, it was so
Oh,
cool.
share that with me. I don't remember it.
Oh. Well, I started to tell you that in this dream that I had, I was like maybe a teenager, a really young teenager, 13, 14 years old. And I had gone home to a multi-unit building, and my parents had an apartment there. And I was looking to pack things and take things, and there was a crowd starting to gather around, and my relatives were there, my parents, grandparents, and everybody was talking about trying to find this boy, trying to find this little boy. And every time they said that, I would just tense up in the dream a little bit more, and I knew I had to leave the apartment. And so I grabbed some things and I snuck out of the apartment, and I saw a mob coming toward the apartment building, you know, with lanterns and torches and things, and they were all going to go find this boy, hunt for this boy. And what I got in the dream was like the boy is maybe 6 or 7 years old. And I just remembered running to the bridge, and I had hid him under the bridge near some trees that were hanging over like a river. And that's pretty much where I woke up, just in a panic, trying to move this little boy away to get him away from the crowd so that no one would find him. And I knew he had something, they wanted him for something. He was famous for something, and they wanted him, and they didn't want to let go of him. So I told my husband this story, and he said, well, let me fill you in on the rest of it. I was that 6 or 7 year old child. I was a champion chess player, and he couldn't handle the fame and didn't want to be, you know, doing all the long hours of practicing and game playing. And I came along to rescue him, and I hid him under the bridge. And he said he had that dream from a while before I even had my dream. But as he was telling it from his viewpoint, because I don't remember all the details from his dream, but as he was saying in the dream, it just seemed to match everything that I saw. Like I said, it was like a movie that just all of a sudden everything came together, and I was like, wow, but I never saw the end of it, and he didn't know what happened either. So there you go. All I know is that we both met under the bridge.
Right, I was safe, yeah. I was about 6 or 7, and yeah, you were a teenager, about 14. In a blue dress. She likes wearing dresses. But then we learned from there that even back then, we were good friends. You know, even though she was older than me, but she always wanted to protect me.
Took care of
that's what those things are for. You know, it's for you to learn from. And then we've had many more. And
Yes,
we've been married many times.
We could do a bunch of videos just on all those.
Exactly. But that's, you know, every time you get one of those, it's for you to learn something from them. Anyway, going back to that, so we've had individuals that have called us with dreams, and once they're interpreted, they realize, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. You know, because the dream kind of guides you with certain things that will either happen in your lifetime now, or has happened, and what you should have done to learn, or what you should have done, and it becomes a lesson for you for next time. All right, so that's all karma based. So that again, you're balancing karma. That's what the dreams are for. And just a little tip for you: when you have a dream, you'll either see yourself involved in the dream, where you're actively involved, and that's a regular dream, is how we call that. Or you'll see yourself as if though you're an observer. You're watching yourself doing things.
Almost like in a movie.
It's like a movie, right? Like you're watching yourself in a movie. That's right. When you're watching yourself like you're in a movie, that's a previous embodiment experience, and that's how you can tell the difference between the two. You know, I've heard from folks that panic when they have dreams, right? They might dream that they were in a car accident. They say, "Oh, does that mean I'm going to have a car accident?" No. It doesn't work that way. Or they might dream that someone close to them died, and then they're panicking because, "Oh, my husband is going to die." No. It's a previous embodiment just shares things with you to prepare you to move forward, and you can make a better decision based on what the guidance is you receive from the dream. Every embodiment you're supposed to learn something from. And so if the angels or ascended masters feel that if they expose something to you now, they will help you make a better decision, then they show you that.
Okay. So we've gone from before we were born to being born to living a life. We have all this karma to balance. Now we get to the point where we are on our deathbed, physical deathbed. And I call it transition now. Most people call it just death. What happens when we die?
Well, first of all, as you know, we've experienced with some of our close relatives and friends. What we consider death and what seems to be scary really isn't, because from a lot of the individuals that have communicated with their loved ones, they made it clear that it's like opening a door and just going through one door and entering a different door. You go through one, like here, we're in one dimension right now. And when someone passes on, they're simply moving into a different dimension. And that's why they can still communicate with their loved ones, you know, because what you're dealing with is a physical body. What you see there, what goes to the funeral home is a physical body. Your soul's already gone.
Okay.
You know? And depending on how the soul passes away, that could be tricky. Because if they passed away suddenly, let's say it was an accident, or they got killed, it wasn't something expected, then they could be stuck on earth for a while because they don't realize that they're dead.
Oh.
And that's where we call Archangel Michael to come in, to go in and help that soul if we know. Or suicide. Suicides are tough ones because they are pretty much stuck on earth until, you know, they realize what has happened and they need to be taken to where they need to go. So suicide are not very good.
Okay.
No, but those are the ones that can go, and people say they see ghosts, right? Because the souls are stuck. They're on earth. They don't realize they're dead, and they're trying to get attention from people. They won't cause you any harm because they're not trying to harm anybody. They're just trying to
So they don't just go to, like in the Catholic upbringing that I've had, they don't just go straight to hell or purgatory or just straight up to heaven?
No, not according to what I've learned. Well, you do go to heaven, but there are different levels of heaven. And I believe that in the Catholic faith, when they say purgatory, it's just another level of heaven.
Okay.
So I believe it is. You know, there's that movie, Defending Your Life.
Defending Your Life is one.
Right.
I thought you were going to bring up the other one. Okay.
What other one?
No Solar. The Astral City. So Defending Your Life is a good movie
Oh, right.
to watch as
I said
well
Defending Your
about the
Life.
afterlife.
Defending